Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the anti-tbr tag. This tag was created by Nicole in her book, so I'll leave her original tag and her channel linked down below, but this is just a tag to kind of talk about some of the books you are not planning on reading anytime soon rather than your favorites, which usually supports most of your channel. I just want to give a quick disclaimer that all of my opinions are just my own, and I'm not trying to say that your favorite book, if I mention it here, is a horrible book. It's just not my taste and not something that I'm going to enjoy or ever try and read. Yeah, so I'm not trying to bash your favorite author or your favorite book if I just say that I don't like it. It's just my opinion. So this tag looks super fun and I really wanted to see what my answers would be, really, because a lot of the books that people talk about being ones that they never plan on reading are some of my favorites, so I wanted to see if I had any fun answers. But without further ado, let's just get on into it. So the first one was hard for me, actually. It was name a popular book that everyone loves that you have no interest in reading. It was really hard because a lot of the series I've either started at least and stopped reading or have read and loved, so there was really only one proper answer for this, and that is The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. I have heard so many rave reviews of this series. It is like a urban fantasy quartet series, young adult, and I just have zero interest in reading it. Every time I read the description, I forget it a few minutes later, and I have no desire whatsoever to pick up the series. It's just not up my alley. I'm not an urban fantasy person, as you'll see from answers later on in the series, but it's just not for me, so I will definitely be putting a pass on The Raven Cycle. I think I've also outgrown the age group that it's made for, so I don't think I would enjoy it on first read at this age now. Next up is to name a classic book or author that you have no interest in reading. For me, it's definitely got to be some of the big chunkier classics like Gone with the Wind and War and Peace. I just have no interest. Gone with the Wind is just an example of an absolutely racist plotline that I just don't really feel like reading. I think there are better classics to deal with. And War and Peace just looks like one of the most boring books I've ever seen in my entire life. In terms of authors, I probably won't ever read anything by Joseph Conrad. Again, just not interested. And I definitely probably won't read anything by Ernest Hemingway. I don't care. Next up is a two-part question. The first is to name an author that you have no interest in reading from. That is definitely going to be for me, Riley Sager. I have his audiobook that I'm set to read this month for Home Before Dark, but I don't think I'm even going to try and get to it. I've heard his books are very okay. I've heard very mixed reviews, but I don't think I'll ever get a chance to. I had to struggle to find one that I think I'd really enjoy, so I'm just going to not do that to myself. I'm just going to skip it entirely. And the second part of the question is to name an author that is problematic that you have no interest in reading from. And for that one, I definitely have to go with Rainbow Rowell. Rainbow Rowell is the beloved author of Fangirl and the Carry On series and Eleanor and Park. And after hearing about Eleanor and Park, I never would have read it on my own anyway because it's contemporary and I don't really read contemporary. But after hearing about all the really, really, really not so nice descriptions of the main Korean character, very fetishizing, they're very disrespectful in their depictions of a Korean family, and hearing from some own voices reviews would just completely turned me off the author. Yeah, I have zero interest in reading from Rainbow Rowell anytime soon. Next up is to name an author who you've read a few of their books and decided they're not for you. For this one, I definitely have to go with Erin Morgenstern. She wrote The Night Circus and The Starless Sea, which you can see I started reading. I don't know what it is about Erin Morgenstern's writing. I can see why people like it. It's very atmospheric, it's very dreamy, it's very mystical, magical, which normally I really enjoy, and there are quite a few authors who do this that I really am big fans of. But for whatever reason, Erin Morgenstern just isn't it for me. It's just not something that I've been interested in. I had to slog my way through The Night Circus. I really did not enjoy my time reading it. And then this one is just taking me forever to even get 100 pages in. And usually, especially for a fantasy type book, a book with this type of description, I normally would fly through. But for whatever reason, I just drag through Erin Morgenstern's writing. So I don't think I'm going to even be finishing this. I will try. but I don't think I'll ever pick up another Erin Morgenstern. This was me giving it Erin Morgenstern a second chance, and it's not going well, so I don't think that Erin Morgenstern's books are for me, per se. Next up is to name a genre that you have no interest in, or a genre that you've tried but just couldn't get into. I've got a few answers for this one. First off is literary fiction. As a English student, I've had to read quite a few literary fiction books in my lifetime for school, and I think I've just associated lit fic now with academic, and it's not something that I want to read on my own, unfortunately. I've read quite a few gems that are definitely categorized as lit fic or like adult fic, women's fic. It's just, I don't really jive with them. I don't know what it is. I think it's because it's one of the most least fantastical genres on the planet, and fantasy is my absolute favorite, so I can't get into lit fic anymore. Another one, hilariously enough, on the flip side of that is sci-fi. I've read a few sci-fi books in my life and I've enjoyed them, and like considering how much I love fantasy, and typically sci-fi fantasy go together very well, I can't get into straight sci-fi books. They have to be like fantasy sci-fi, a little bit of a crossover, or it's just not for me. I can't get into them as well. I can't, like, especially sci-fi books set in space. Like I have zero interest in reading a book set in space. It's not for me. I just get bored. Like a lot of like I think one of the things I love about fantasy, and like I think it's a reason I also don't like urban fantasy too much, is that I love fantasy that has absolutely no connection to the modern world. No technological advances, no modern day settings, nothing like that. I hate it. I don't know why. I can't jive with it, so definitely sci-fi. And then the last one is like a very niche subject, but like autobiographies. I hate them. I can't stand them. I don't like reading them at all. Funnily enough, I don't mind memoirs, but like autobiographies, for whatever reason, the distinction between the two, I don't know what it is, but it's just not it's not something I'm interested in reading. Or just like plain biographies written by other people, especially, no. I'm not interested whatsoever. Next up is to name a book that you've bought or that you own that you know you'll never read. For this one, I know for sure I bought this at a used book sale, and I've kept it just because like I've always wanted to say that I've read this book, but I know I'm not gonna read it, and that is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Mostly just because it's a classic that's like freaking huge, and I don't know why, but I don't think I'm ever gonna read it. It's too much. It's too big. I've not heard like distinct reviews that's going to make me want to absolutely go and pick this up. I never had to read it for school, and I probably never will have to read it for school, so probably never gonna happen. Next up is to name a series that you have no interest in reading, or one that you have started and decided to DNF. That is what I'm going to be answering for both these questions, or both these answers, I should say. First one is the Folk of the Air series by Holly Black, which is like starting with the Cruel Prince. I love fae stories, but I think this is again a problem where it fits under the description of kind of urban fantasy. And I tried to read The Cruel Prince twice, and I couldn't get through it. I really hated it. I know this is a really beloved series, and like most people who like fae stories tend to love the Folk of the Air series, but I am not one of those people. I really did not enjoy it. I didn't like any of the characters, and I hated where the story was going. I went and looked up spoilers so I knew what happened, so I could listen to people talk about it, and it still didn't even faze me. I'm never gonna read it. I enjoy Holly Black's other works, like The Spiderwick Chronicles was one of my favorite things I ever read when I was a kid, so like I was surprised when I did not enjoy The Cruel Prince, but no. And the other one is again another beloved series, but that is the Mortal Instruments series and the entire Shadowhunters Chronicles. Again, it falls under the urban fantasy genre, which I'm not there for. I tried reading this in high school when I was like 15. I read the first 3, I think, in the Mortal Instruments series. And like I thought they were okay. My one cousin really loves them, or really did love them, at least when we were 15. But I've never had any interest in going back and continuing on with this series. I find it really funny because like Emma Books is one of my favorite booktubers of all time, and she talks about the Mortal Instruments series. And like it sounds interesting, but I don't care. I like don't think I will ever give the Mortal Instruments another chance. And finally, the last one is to name a new release that you have no interest in reading. And for this, I'm definitely going to go with The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. This is the new newest thriller release by the author of The Silent Patient, which I also have not read. These are two thrillers that tend to be held up in very high regard, but I have absolutely no interest in reading them, which is really weird. I normally am drawn to new releases of thrillers, and finding a new thriller that I could really enjoy, this is not one of them. The Maidens, it sounds like it's supposed to be a really great like dark academia story, but every dark academia thriller that I've tried to read has not gone well for me, so I don't think I will ever pick up The Maidens, no matter how much hype it gets. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up because it really does support my channel, and leave me a comment down below letting me know what series you are not interested in reading anytime soon. If you're new here, please subscribe. I put out new bookish and writing videos every week, and I hope you guys have a lovely day. Bye-bye.